We will be talking to Doug Ford, who's now, again, a long-time established family, hugely established family in the West End of Toronto, and he has declared that he is going to run for mayor. So we look forward to talking to him after watching his announcement.
Again, after, as I was saying earlier, after consulting with my family and many of the folks in the crowd here, I know there's only one option. There's only one option here, folks. And I know where it is in my heart and where my heart is. And here today, I'm officially going to announce that I will be running for mayor. So much. Together, we will make sure that the average man and woman of this great city has a voice at City Hall.
Yes, yes.
Together, we will stop the out-of-control spending at City Hall and invest in priorities that matter to you.
Yes.
For 4 years, we have watched all the hard work that we did at City Hall. My friend Giorgio and Vince and others slowly come undone. We have saved hundreds of millions of dollars, and I always say it wasn't Rob, it wasn't me, it was a whole team. Guys like Mike Delgran, Vince Crisanti, Giorgio Mamaliti, those are the people that help save each and every one of you hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars each year. Folks, the bad news is, just in less than 3 years, John Tory's increased spending at the city over $1 billion each and every single year.
The roar of disdain when you mention the amount of taxes that people here in this city have paid, and we're really thrilled to have Doug Ford, who, as you just saw, now running for the mayor of Toronto. And Doug, thanks so much for joining us here this morning on rawmicrichards.com.
Well, thanks for having me in. It's great. Great to be here.
And I got to tell you, okay, so in the world of politics, in which even when we were watching football this weekend, you just can't get away from it. But I can briefly, because in talking to my good friend Gino Retta, who I've known for years, and we're having this conversation at TSN, and he said, yeah, like when I was coaching Dougie and Robbie. I said, who are you talking about? The Fords.
Yeah.
I said, you coached high school? Okay, how old are you, Gino? Are you? How many people?
I know as an age.
I was going to say, what were you, 10 when you were coaching these guys? Gino Retta was your football coach for you and your brother.
Not only my football coach, but he was a camp counselor. We went to something called Campus Life. And so he was one of the counselors there. Great guy. He never aged.
No, he doesn't.
I think he was my soccer coach as well. So he is a great guy.
Well, part of your family is athletics. I mean, it's always been close to you guys. And, I think sometimes when you play team sports, it allows you, and Dave's the same way as I am, to have a communication with other people, even if they have a difference of opinion. Yeah. I can always say that you can tell someone who's played team sports because of the interaction they have with other people. Sure. So I think before we get into some of the details of just why you're doing this, I think there's also, and I'll let you explain it, this accountability that you have, that you get as an athlete, that if you're going to the field of public service, which this is, there must be something that you derive from playing team sports that sort of drives you to do this.
It's funny you say that. I always relate a lot of things to team sports, be it leadership, teamwork, how to work with others, having a plan moving forward, how to win. So I always relate it to team sports, and that's the same as I run our company. You have to run a company as a team. And you have to run a city as a team, and your team is the constituents of Toronto.
So in making this decision, it's not something that you would have done overnight, but just explain the process of coming to this conclusion. How long did it take, and when did you really say to yourself, before anybody else, I'm going to do this?
Well, probably the time was I was up at Sault Ste. Marie with Patrick Brown and a couple of people from the party in a by-election, and we're happy to say we won that by-election, first time in, I think it was 30 years up there. And I got off and I saw a poll, even though a lot of polls are fake polls. It piqued my interest that we were neck and neck. And then, sure enough, the same polling companies, this is why I don't trust polling companies, 3 weeks later in the middle of the summer said he was 30 points ahead. So I don't know how things change in 3 weeks in the middle of the
Doug,
summer.
they're going to go, it's fake news. We all just know it's fake news. I mean, that's what you don't want to say.
Well, you know something, you got to question some of their methodologies. And but anyways, I just, my heart's in the city. I understand the city. I understand the budgets inside and out. And there's just a lot of issues right now. And I guess the media hasn't been calling Tory out on a tremendous amount of issues, and the councillors are all singing Kumbaya.
Yeah.
When that happens, hold on to your pocketbooks because they're digging deep into it.
Yeah. So when you look at it, and you're absolutely right when you talk about what's happening in City Hall right now. Why isn't John Tory being called out for this? Why? What was different? Because it almost seemed like when your brother was in power, your brother would say one thing, and all of a sudden people were having debates about it and wondering. And meanwhile, all he did was cut, and actually, save some money for the taxpayers. I mean, he was not joking when he said we're stopping the gravy train. I know people laughed at that, but he wasn't wrong about that.
No,
though.
he was dead serious, and we did stop it in our first year. Our accomplishments just go for 2 pages if it means hundreds of millions of dollars in the labor savings and the labor costs to make sure we had a good deal for the frontline workers, but also the taxpayers, making sure that TTC was an essential service. We outsourced the garbage west of Yonge Street, saving $88 million. We had to make sure that Toronto Community Housing was running properly. We fired the whole board and the president, CEO. There was a lot of games being played with purchase orders. We went into every single department to find efficiencies, which we did. I could just keep going on and on and on. And I ask everyone, and be honest with me, what has John Tory done? No one can answer.
Right.
I can't even answer. And I'm trying not to be biased. And I've known John for 25 years. Nice guy. Don't get me wrong. But he hasn't done anything except raise taxes to a tune of $1 billion compared to when we were there. And that works out. Rob used to always say, don't say $1 billion. So that works out to be $1,000 a household that he's spending every single year, more than what we spent. The cupboards are empty. The reserves are drained. He's facing $300 million going into this year of pressure that he doesn't have. So it's concerning to say the least. You look at parking. I'm just going to head down to City Hall after this. So he's jacking up all the parking rates after he got rid of the board. So it's him and a couple of staffers. So the first thing he did was raise it $6 million. The water bills, they're going through the roof.
Yeah.
You got the garbage going through the roof. Traffic is an absolute disaster. I'm
really
all over
bad.
the U.S. every single week. Nothing compares to Toronto traffic. It's gridlock absolutely everywhere. He's going to close King Street off, where we are here, to pedestrian. Folks, I just had 2 business owners beside you coming out saying, you got to stop this. It's going to kill our business. He's putting bike lanes, and I'm not against bike lanes because I put $90 million into bike lanes, but not on Bloor Street, not on Yonge Street. Do it east or west or north or south of the main arterial roads.
I think most people would agree with that.
It's just
seriously. If you drive, it doesn't seem to be that hard to figure
and
out.
they're increasing politicians. So we think there should be the same amount of federal MPs and MPPs provincially as there are councillors. Well, it's double the amount now. So they've increased it again by 3 additional councillors. We don't need more politicians. We need less. And you get things done.
We're in conversation with Doug Ford here on rawmike.richards.com. We're pleased that he's joined us here this morning. And, looking at public service these days and just looking at, what's happened south of the border and just sort of what people want and what they don't want. And it was pretty clear that when Donald decides that he's going to run, there was a big part of that, if you even get picky, the majority of the country said that we don't want a politician. We don't want any poly speak. Maybe we go with a businessman with all the character flaws they may have seen, but he's not going to be a politician. this past weekend, where we see sometimes that does catch up with him, you take the good and the bad, and right now it just seems like it's literally unraveling. So for someone to want to be in public service, and I had the same conversation with Tim Hudak and the other guys I've talked to, I said to Dave, why would anyone want to do this? I mean, they go through your garbage. They got cameras in your backyard. Yeah. They don't leave your family alone. They talk to cousins and children and uncles and aunts. Yeah. And after a while, it feel like they're crawling all over me. And I see your announcement while all this is going on. I'm thinking, there must be. Yeah. I mean, does your wife turn to you and say, are you kidding me? Or is it sort of, at some point it's just in your DNA. It's what your family does. It's that drive to serve the public. And sometimes that is the answer. What is it for you?
It is. It's as corny as it may sound, it's about serving the public. It gets entrenched into you when you continue to take 10 to 15 calls every single day. Yeah. Even when I wasn't a politician, everything from immigration to potholes to every issue you could think of. I'm taking the calls. People are frustrated. You walk out there, hundreds of thousands of supporters, not just in Toronto, but in GTA. Get out there. We need your support. You need that voice for the average household. As we say, the little guy that doesn't have a voice unless you donate $1,000 to someone's campaign. They don't return your calls. They don't get back to you because you aren't important. You're the little guy. But going back to Rob, our city's made up of a massive amount of new Canadians, the ethnic community that absolutely love them. And we have that support because they come from other countries, not all of them, but some come from other countries that there's corruption, just like Canada here. There's lots of corruption in government, that's for sure. And all of a sudden they go to this country and they can actually pick up the phone and call the mayor at home. And then the mayor calls you back at midnight, which he used to do. Yeah. It's unheard of. So, but they'd hear their concerns. You'd show up to their door, and they'd have voters for the rest of their lives here.
I look at your family and your relationship with your brother. I have two brothers myself. He's got a brother, and you're always very protective of it. And I looked at sort of the very public battles sometimes that your brother had, and how the news agencies, quite honestly, really seem to relish and get their fork in there. And then he passes, and then they talk about him with this reverence like he was the Pope. And I think that's the kind of thing, that's what bothered me, is that if you're going to back somebody or you're going to be a certain way, just be consistent in the way that you feel. And I always felt like the media with your brother, everybody has battles. His happens just to be a little more public than others. But as a brother, how difficult was that for you to watch literally not only how he was being treated, but the battle he was having personally as well, be that public?
Yeah, it was a challenge, but I always stood by Rob, and massive amounts of people stood by him because the guy was honest. He didn't steal money. Politicians are stealing money underneath our noses every day. They make backroom deals with their buddies for tens of millions of dollars. It's happening right now. It's happening right now as we speak at all three levels of government. There's backroom deals worth millions of dollars. Rob didn't do backroom deals. He wouldn't do it. And I can't say that about too many other politicians, municipally, provincially, or federally. I've been in this game for 30 years. I've seen some real nasty stuff happen. And unless you physically catch them with the paper bag and the money inside it, it's hard to catch these guys. But we caught quite a few of them when we were down there, a lot of them actually.
So election isn't until October of 2018. So you've announced you're going to run, and you kind of have a little bit of a head start rather than last time where you kind of joined it late, which was a significant deficit for you to kind of make up. What's the difference between announcing it now and the deficit you had to actually make up when you replaced Rob and you fell just short, because it was actually pretty damn close? What's gonna be the difference this time around, considering that you actually do have time to game plan instead?
Yeah, last time it was kind of literally last minute. Just to go back, they thought this was a big plan. It wasn't. It was 2 hours before the deadline that you could either drop out or go in. And Rob's doctor at Mount Sinai came in and said, it's just not going to happen. You can't run. It's not feasible. Rob turned to me and said, "Are you going to run?" That's what happened. I didn't even have the $200 to sign up on me. I raced in the car, went downtown. I think I borrowed it off John Nunziata or Rob, or it was just a blur of things. And then we jumped in there and left us 5.5 weeks. So really had 4 weeks to actually get the signs, get the literature, get campaigning, and we had the momentum. And this time it's a lot longer. We're going to have time to organize the best team ever. We're compiling the best team I've ever worked on in 30 years of politics. People are coming out of the woodworks, so that tells me there's a lot of interest. And it's going to be a challenge. The easy thing I could have done is run provincially, get elected, be a minister, and that's it.
Disappear into the woodwork.
Disappear into the woodworks. That's I'm not cut from that cloth. I'd rather be down there leading.
So these are all the pros, and I understand that certainly from where you come from. What are the cons? What will be the negative in this?
Well, the cons. I'll go back to what are some of the cons. It's unprecedented in any politician. They flew down to Florida, harassed all the people in our condos, waited outside after they were asked to leave. The Toronto Star follows my mother around. Used to follow Rob and I around everywhere we went. Staked our place out in New Jersey. Our business went through our business. Stood outside Chicago's facility. Stand outside our office. Every move that you made,
wow,
they were following you, and it became, almost became a joke at one point. You go up to their window and say, "Hey, I'm going here. You might as well meet me over there." So it was ridiculous, and it all came down to making sure that, when you take the special interest hands out of the cookie jar, and you're taking money out of their pockets, they get ticked. Oh my God, you're taking grants and all sorts of nonsense off them. Not good grants. There are good grants, but some grants were just, muffin-making grants. And people weren't for that.
So you're aware, obviously, making the announcement the other day that your family's prepared that some of this crap could happen again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they used to write my 83-year-old mom the nastiest letters you've ever heard, and the language was unbearable. You have death threats. 2 guys got arrested saying they're going to sodomize my daughters and all this crazy stuff, stuff you've never heard before. And you'd like to get your hands around these guys.
Because they'd never say it to your face, Doug. That.
They're all tough guys behind Twitter or whatever.
So,
but they grew up with it. Our family grew up with it, ready to do battle for the taxpayers. And my other brother thinks I'm crazy, and he's probably right getting involved. But I used to think Rob and I were both crazy getting involved in politics. But it's something that people need to be heard.
So going into the election that you'll soon turn the calendar year, what do you think is the number one issue that the people of Toronto are coming up to you and saying, Doug, this is my number one concern with this city right now?
Yeah, before I never had a record to chase after with John Tory. Now he has a record of just constant broken promises, raising taxes. He said he was going to outsource the garbage. He never outsourced the garbage. These are the things that we live in a democracy. People vote based on what you promise them. He said he wasn't going to do tolls. Then he flip-flopped on the tolls again. I think that's his third time going back and forth on the tolls. He said he was going to keep taxes low. He hasn't. He's taxed everything that moves, including the parking now. So these are some of the frustrations people have out on the street. Every time they reach their hand in their pocket, it's either Kathleen Wynne gouging them on the Ontario, the hydro bills. It's Justin Trudeau going after every small business out there with additional taxes. Or it's John Tory taxing everything, including the roof that you have. He's going to tax the amount of rainwater that comes off the roof.
The rainwater?
Roof tax. Look into roof tax and you'll see it. And
that's news to me. It almost sounds impossible.
Yeah, but they're doing it. There's the runoff of the water, so they're going to measure the amount of water that runs off your roof. That's on the table. But there's nothing that he's done to save money or find efficiencies. He's hired a couple thousand staff, bureaucrats, and I'm thinking, why? Why do you need so many bureaucrats? You don't need them. It's just it takes 34 houses to pay for one bureaucrat. You hire a couple thousand. That's like hiring a GM plant or a Ford plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's staggering, absolutely staggering.
Travel in this city, and both of us travel into the downtown area because we live just out east. It's getting more difficult by the day. Yeah. Are you happy with the plan that's in place for TTC I guess open up the Scarborough area and improve. I know they're talking about redoing the Gardner a little bit. Do you like what's happening there?
It was a disaster. Even coming down here, I couldn't get off. I had to go all the way down to the far end, circle back around, and come back. This smart track is still on the back of a napkin that he did during the campaign. He said it was going to be 7 years, 22 stops. Nothing's been done. Nothing at all. He's screwed over the people of Scarborough once again. We had a fully funded Scarborough subway. 3 stops. Provincial approved it and gave us the money. Feds and the municipality did. And he came in and took out 2 of the stops and increased it to a $5 billion one subway stop. It's ridiculous. The people of Scarborough, there's 26% of the population, 630,000 people, and they're just getting screwed on transit. You go out to the zoo or anything, it prohibits them of good gainful employment. You can get it. It takes you 2 hours to get there, to get downtown, and then 2 hours to get back home. But let's start delivering subways. Any major city, guys, anywhere you go in the world, is rapid underground transit. Build 1 kilometer a year. Build 2 kilometers a year. Anything. Because our city's going up. We got to go down. We got to go under.
Well, Doug, thanks so much for spending this time with us here today. I was saying before you came in, I said, well, when Tim Hudak came in that one time, I don't know how many people were there, 20, 30 people, all these handlers, there was PR girls, there's all kind of stuff. Doug, I just see this man, and it's funny, my mom's side is all from Hamilton. They're all self-made men. And I said, oh, my God, you look like exactly
like
what
support in Hamilton.
Just here he comes walking in himself. How you doing, fella? Sitting down. I said, I like that. And look, I certainly respect what your family has done. And I said, I thought it was very painful what Rob went through. He was on a show doing CFL picks.
He loved it. Yeah. That was his favorite show going. I remember he'd be picking it. He loved football. I thought of him last night.
He was pretty good too.
Last night I was watching the game last night. Geez, Washington really kicked their butts.
Yeah, they did. That wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close.
No.
I thought Oakland was going to have a lot stronger offense than what they had.
Wait, would you play? Do you play on both sides of the ball? What did you do?
Believe it or not looking at me now, but I used to be fullback and then moved me up in the senior year up to line but we had a great team.
Well, and
won a couple championships.
It's funny. I remember when the counselors were picking on Rob because at some point he was on the football field, having coached high school football myself. 4:00, that's what you're doing, and they'd made some issue about him going out to do it. And I thought, guys, you're missing the point of this.
Yeah.
Here's a man that most mayors, I think, at some point aren't really probably going to go back out to where they came from to free of their own time, go out and make young men into better people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
he's not getting paid for this. This is not a publicity stunt. He would have done it whether he was mayor or not. And I think this is what you're for counselors, and I don't know what goes on. Look, not that I know what goes on in Toronto Council or any other council, but all I know, if the mayor of Toronto said, by the way, there are some days where I will be gone by 3:30, 3 o'clock, whatever, because I'm going to coach high school football. And they made us think about that, and I thought, this is wrong. And I felt that all of a sudden, they're calling him Tommy Boy. I'm thinking, you want to call him Tommy Boy? Okay, but here's what you're missing on that. Tommy Boy in the movie was loved. Tommy Boy was the hero in that. Yeah. Tommy Boy was the one who was so honest. He got himself in trouble, but at the end of the day, he had the support of the people. So if you want to call him Tommy Boy, call him Tommy Boy then, because I didn't think that was a terrible thing necessarily. I know what they were getting at, but guess what? I think they were wrong, because the people of Toronto, at the end of the day, as I said during his funeral, and just a quick little background, when he was diagnosed with cancer, that happened about the same that I was, with rectal cancer. Well, and it's gone. I mean, I was one of the lucky ones. I'm one of the lucky ones. And I thought, the thing they made about it, when he was doing his chemo, I was doing my chemo, except no one knew about mine. Yeah. I was going through my chemo and radiation every hour on the hour.
You didn't put your medical records out there?
Apparently not.
No, apparently not. No.
And that's what. And I said, that's when I looked at it. I said, come on, let's show a little dignity for the guy at least. Yeah.
But Rob, it wasn't about football. It was about helping these kids. And if you met these kids, you'd see over 20 years, a generation of kids that went through his program. Yeah, loved them. High priority neighborhoods. These kids had tough lives. And at another date, I'll tell you some stories. We'll come back on and tell you about his football career. That's awesome.
Hey, well, the fact that you came down here, Doug, means a lot to us. Certainly, we're a small business. Yeah. I mean, we're going up against the big guys, and we kind of like where this is going. Yeah. And this is a huge help, you doing this today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Doug. That is Doug Ford. And you know what? I'll take this up before you leave. It being a small, it means if you get up, we lose a camera.
What?
friends?
Yep.